And we are live.
Yes, we is.
Jenny, Winny, and the average dude. Good morning to all you listeners.
Good morning.
Every last single one of you out there. Good
Hello.
morning.
All I can keep
Jenny.
thinking for some reason, I'm like, surprise, surprise. That's been on a lot of little like TikToks and all this stuff lately. It's an old commercial, something you'd never seen, Danny. You had to watch TV. But
You got to watch TV. What do you say?
well, but you did as a child. But anyway, I digress. Let's go.
He digresses. Welcome to Jenny, Winny, and the average dude, where we randomly talk about things. And then we talk to people who really know what they're talking about. Don't we?
That's right. See, we talk about the things we're like, you know, and then
just
you start
everywhere.
talking, like, what have I done? I have chosen very poorly.
Yes, but welcome and stay tuned. We've got a communication expert, Ty Hoesgen. We're going to be interviewing later. Can't wait to get to know Ty, and I think that you're going to be impressed with his knowledge of communication and what communication can do to changing our lives.
Yeah,
right? It's a big deal.
And he's humble. I'm going to bring that out, Ty, when you come home, because I was listening to another show you did, and I was like, humble bumble.
Humble. I like the humility. The humility is a good thing. So, Jenny, I know you worked late last night. Now, I don't want to get Jenny. See, when you're cousins with your co-host, you have to make sure you don't like push her over the edge. you don't want to. But I think you'll feel better. You worked late last night.
I did.
But you got up this morning. You seem like you're raring to go. You got
your
turtleneck on.
Yeah, it was turtleneck day.
Turtleneck day. Jenny, average dude, turtleneck.
We got on here, and I said it's kind of like I feel like everybody's talking about my tight pants, except it's our turtlenecks.
Right. And now the anchor man. I had the anchor man look going. You remember?
Yeah. So. Hey, you know what? I got something fun coming up. Now, this is hard for communications because let's listen to the accent I have. Okay.
I don't hear an accent.
Am I ever going to be able to portray a Russian? Really? Okay.
Yeah, you worked on it.
I'm invited to a mystery murder, whatever party.
Oh, a mystery murder dinner. I always wanted to do that. I thought that might be fun.
And I got a ticket. It's like, the invitation is a ticket. We're on a train and they tell you what you are, and so my name is
Vladia
no, it's actually Anna, but I mean Anna. Anna Tata. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, that's fun.
Oh my goodness. I'm a Russian ballerina.
Wow.
I said, Dog.
You probably have really good legs, just saying.
Yeah, well, I do. But it's like, you know what? I've been practicing. And then you go on here and I've been watching YouTube's on, because you have to introduce yourself. And I'm like, I in the Russian.
Oh,
Yeah, but then I end up going like, isn't that amazing? Instead of like, isn't that amazing? So anyway, that's going to be pretty cool.
That will be cool. I think it would be fun I've always thought that actors and actresses have the coolest jobs in the world. You get to be someone else, study how they think.
Oh, listen, I've been studying it. And you know what? It's like, everybody's just there to have fun. And I'm going to be like, no, you better take it seriously, people.
Now, Jenny, have you, I hate to segue so quickly, but I did want to talk about something.
Yeah.
Have you been keeping up at all with the changes in college football?
What do you mean?
The coach of Alabama is no longer there, Nick Saban.
He's not?
No longer there. No.
Now, see, usually this is something that, I am familiar with because I do.
I know you do, but I wasn't sure. So that just happened. So, Dabo Swinney, coach of the Clemson Tigers, went to Alabama.
Stop speaking.
No. He didn't. He's not gone yet. I'm just saying he.
I knew he went to Alabama. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh God Almighty.
But I'm just saying. Some people feel like Dabo may be going to Alabama.
Well, that would be. That makes me actually feel like I'm gonna get choked up. That would make me cry because that's not nice.
Well, now what I think is kind of funny. So at the beginning of the year, you know how the Clemson fans were jumping on Dabo. Oh, Dabo's washed up. He bothered this and that. Yeah, his boys are here.
Dabo is a version of Ted Lasso, really. Okay, he is. I can see him doing. I could see him in the locker room doing a little dance. Well, he did do a little dance.
Yeah.
I can see him being like, "Hey, barbecue sauce. So anyway,
I'll tell you from a personal standpoint, what for me, sports, I've always been into sports, but then in 2020, when we had COVID and there was nobody in the stands and they had like the cardboard cutouts, I felt like I was at PK Gregg Center watching a pickup basketball. I couldn't stand that. It destroyed.
I know. It's like all of a sudden, and the fake crowd. I mean, that they had sounds like clapping and
it made you think you were watching a pickup game at a gym, a local gym. You know?
Yeah.
I just couldn't get into it. But
watching one of those Allison Braves games, like when we played when we were kids. We were that team.
Oh gosh, that was so much fun though. Playing sports growing up as kids and the imagination, man, that's fun.
Fun. Yeah.
Good stuff. What else is going on, Jenny? Do you like change? Do you like change? That was something I was going to ask you. Do you like change? You don't like change?
I don't. And it's hard for me to do it, but I know it's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's necessary and I will do it. I just don't really like it. I mean, like even with a car,
mm-hmm.
I will drive it. And then I'm like, I'll miss you when you're gone. And,
Yeah.
I can't help it.
Yeah. No, I think that I personally like change, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I like to just change things up just a little bit. It's like it shifts your perspective because I hate being caught because time goes fast already, right? And then you get into this routine. You're doing the same thing. You wake up, you do the same things. Everything looks the same. It's like, so like your mom, Aunt Diane, that just commented, she likes to change the house around a little bit. She likes to, yeah. She likes to put new furniture in. And I like that,
all the time. She does it all the time.
Yeah. So
that must be nice. I know.
So here we are. I'm excited. We've got someone that I've been watching here on LinkedIn. I think he's got a lot of practical tips that he shares on LinkedIn. So I said, man, I've got to get Ty on the show. So Ty Hoesgen is our guest. And we're going to welcome Ty to the show right now, aren't we, Jenny?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, you told me to do that. Sorry.
Yeah. There he is.
Hello. Good to see you guys.
Good morning, Ty.
Pronunciation? Hoesgen?
Yes, very, very, very close. More than good enough.
Okay. Yeah. If we start splitting hairs, we may not ever get there, right, Ty?
I was going to say, you guys put me in an interesting position talking about humility at the beginning because my resolution was to not be humble anymore and just be really cocky. So now I'm not sure what to do.
Well, you know what, Ty? Honestly, what was funny is I think this was something old. I was watching that you did. And it was just funny because you and the guest, you were talking about doing good communication skills with a virtual meeting.
Yep.
And you were like, y'all were both like, and it's easy when you're both incredibly good looking as we are.
It's one of the most effective ways to communicate well.
When you look like a Greek god, it's easy to do a virtual. Yeah. So I thought that was so funny.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this, Ty. Do you enjoy getting on things like this, doing podcasts? I noticed you've been on quite a few podcasts. Do you enjoy that?
I enjoy it a lot. It's always a fun conversation. We get to both educate and entertain a little bit. And I have conversations like this all the time. Yeah, I think it's edutain is the official term for the educate, entertain. I don't know if you want to steal that in the future because you guys do a little bit of both yourself.
We enjoy that. It's a tough line to draw, but I think at the end of the day, the organic flow, talking to people that know their stuff. That's what I really enjoy about podcasting. You've been thinking about and living in that world of communication, and so I'm curious. How did you find your way into that world?
Yeah, that's what Daniel was saying earlier when you weren't even. We were just talking. He's like, I'm curious how he got here. What led you up to being that focusing on communication?
Absolutely. So not what you'd expect. Actually, I grew up on a very, very small town farm near a town of 800 people. Okay, so pretty isolated. Farm boy, old school farm boy. I live in the big city now, so totally different. That's skipping a couple steps, though. So my favorite thing on the farm was actually just being by myself. Like to climb the trees, break the sticks, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Did not want to interact with people at all. Okay.
Oh, that sounds like me now. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. The breaking sticks and climbing trees, right?
Yeah. Wait.
So I was the kid in school that, when people are going on the room talking about, oh, who has a crush on this person, who's a crush on that person, people would be like, no one has a crush on Ty. He's just kind of off there in the background. Still a little trauma from that comment. It haunts me to this day. But nonetheless.
I feel your pain, dude. I'm like, remember in 6th grade when you said I was ugly?
That sticks with you. That sticks with you.
Does.
For sure.
It does. Yeah.
For sure. So I was fine actually just being in the background. I had an older sister, and she would actually jump in and answer questions for me whenever people would ask a question. So growing up as a kid, no fault to her, but I actually didn't get a lot of opportunities to practice, which again, I loved it. I was just that introvert, quiet, off to the side. Like I was that kid.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's
elementary school,
interesting.
for sure. And you can get through life as a kid kind of that way, right? Try being successful in the professional world that way.
God,
Unless you're a genius, which I wasn't, pretty average intelligence, to be honest. So because I wasn't a genius, I realized very quickly that I would have to at least become decent at interacting with others, especially because the only job I could get out of college was selling life insurance.
Ooh.
Now I'm talking about death, disease, disability. What's going to happen to your family if you die unexpectedly?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's a tough conversation. Talking about tough conversation, yeah.
Tough conversation, right? And so at this point, a tough conversation for me was, how was your day?
Yeah.
Like that was tough for me at that point. So I got hired because it was a commission-only job, so no risk to them. They're like, sure, whatever. Give this kid a chance.
Right, yeah.
We don't care.
Yeah. So it was the only job I could get. And it became so apparent just how terrible I was at speaking with people.
Mm-hmm.
And so just got to a pretty dark point. I'm obviously not making a lot of money, struggling to even ask someone about their day, now trying to sell them a life insurance policy.
Mm-hmm.
So it really got to a point where I just realized, purely out of necessity, I'm not even trying to be successful at that point, but I need to learn how to communicate better just so I don't hate going to work every day, right? Let me just try to be okay so that I can have an average life. I didn't have big dreams at that point. It's like, let me just try to be an average communicator now, right? That resonates with Daniel, I can tell.
I know, he's like average.
It's like it's taking punches every time he says it.
Yeah. So then it actually just kind of became an obsession. Now, coaches didn't really exist then, right? This was well over 10 years ago.
Yep.
Coach sports. That's it. Right now we have coaches for everything. But back then, coach sports. So I just had to pour into the research, reading, practicing on my own, experimenting with everything, just trying to figure everything out, all on my lonesome, which took forever. Trying to do that on your own, with no guidance, no help. I was also kind of stubborn and didn't really ask anyone for help. And so it just took years and years and years.
You couldn't communicate it. You're like,
yeah. How do I even ask
for help?
Yeah. So you started working on. So I'm just trying to make sure I'm with you. So you basically you felt like you needed to improve on your communication. You started studying on your own how you could do that.
For sure. So it's just all the books, all the courses, lots of practice on my own, lots of experimenting with this, experimenting with that. And because I was, talking to so many people at work, I actually had a pretty solid amount of opportunities to practice, like lots of us do. People are always like, I don't have the time to learn how to communicate. And I say, you can learn one thing in 5 minutes and just try that thing and practice that thing throughout the whole day. You're talking to people all day. You don't need to even put aside extra time to practice a lot of times. Just practice during the situations you already have. So I did a lot of that. And then a lot of on my own late nights, truly just obsessing for years and years and years, eventually to the point when, you guys know, you do anything for long enough, you do eventually get better and you get good, right? It's a skill that you can learn. You're not set as an introvert. You're not destined to be this way because the Myers-Briggs said you were a bunch of 4 letters.
Yes.
I don't subscribe to that at all.
I don't either.
Absolutely don't like it one bit. It's a skill that you can train and learn.
Yeah. Yes, because that makes me feel boxed in. I don't like feeling boxed in, and you can learn skills. Like you say, you were an introvert. You were letting your sister make the calls for you, but then, and it sounds like you were the forgotten guy, and I can feel that too. But then what he started doing, I can tell he started lifting weights. He started working on his communication, and then things started to change, didn't they, Ty?
Did the Rocky theme song play in the background when you were
Heck
doing
yeah, in the head.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure. It's so funny. I just heard a quote the other day about that exact scene. And it was like, the crazy thing about that Rocky cutscene where all that's happening is that it's like, a few minutes in the movie, but that could be like 7 years in real
I
life,
know.
which is what people don't realize.
Da, 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 da,
It's like, yeah, you love watching it, but like maybe your Rocky cutscene's like a decade, and people are like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Which mine wasn't quite as short as the movie, unfortunately. But I mean, especially if you have a coach, that's why one of the reasons I became a coach was to really shorten the length of time of that Rocky cutscene for people. But going back to my success after a number of years of working on the communication, just guys, everything changed. Like
Yeah.
professional, now I'm getting promoted and switched to a different industry. Now I'm getting to leadership roles, making a lot more money. People respect me more, more confident. And of course, that translates into your social life, right? Oh, friends, relationships. I'm able to have now good partnerships with much better looking people. Like, this is fantastic. All from this one particular skill that I learned, really just benefiting me in so many different areas.
So it's something you can learn. I mean, it's like you can, because when I hear that, I'm like, okay, I mean, is it just a matter of I'm just gonna, because if you're an introvert, there's something inside that you're kind of like, oh, I'm timid to do this, I'm timid to say it, I'm whatever. So after practicing or whatever, it just became that much easier.
For sure. And it's like anything else, that any other skill that you start at the beginning, when it's hard at first, it sucks when you suck at something.
Yeah.
No other way of putting it. It sucks to suck, but the more that you do something,
that's a good
the less
quote.
you suck.
It sucks
right?
to suck. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it does.
Right. So it's like whenever you start any type of skill, if you're just learning how to ski for the first time, let's say, you're gonna suck the first time you're falling down. You're like, oh, this is not fun. I'm not a good skier. Well, yeah, you're not good because you haven't practiced enough, or you just don't know how to practice.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So if you're trying to speak the same way every day and you're not getting better, well, maybe you need to learn how to practice, learn the right things to do. That's where like having a coach or having help makes such a big difference. Because if you're like, well, I'm going to all these meetings, but I'm not getting better, it's because you're just doing the same stuff. You're speaking the same way, and you're approaching it the same way.
Were you deliberate in like, okay, I'm going to not necessarily practice, but let's say, did you create opportunities to do this? To say, okay, to practice. Did you create the opportunity so that you could, hone in on that skill?
Use it in the real world, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is that I didn't really have to, because there's just so many opportunities naturally throughout my day. Right. So I had roommates at the time. I was a young guy, so I had roommates I could talk to. Again, at work, we have lots of coworkers, talking to coworkers, talking to clients, talking to customers. So I didn't really even have to create like any sort of special new opportunities, or like I personally didn't say, okay, I have to go out and talk to 10 new people and walk down the street. That would have been helpful, but I didn't find I needed to do that, because throughout your day, there's enough people that all these organic situations come up to practice. So that's something that actually makes a lot of people almost comforted in knowing that, okay, I don't have to spend 2 hours a day outside of my schedule practicing communication.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the tips that you give on LinkedIn, these are practical tips. This isn't for somebody that's necessarily on a stage. This is, I'm interacting with someone. How am I going to present myself in body language and tone, and really it's like emotional intelligence and communication and all these sorts of social skills that, like you say, they make social interactions stronger, right?
Yeah, and I like how you do on LinkedIn. You take it, like when you click, how it just takes you through, you can just scroll through each step or whatever. I like that. Instead of having to read a whole article, or instead of having to, watch something, it's like, hey, it's practical. Look the person in the eye. You think that, you think that's common knowledge, but hey, you're right.
Yeah.
I like how you do that though. But it's like, do you think those social anxiety comes into play sometimes, with the communication? How do you get past that part? You know what I mean? It's kind of like if you might be a great communicator. You're just nervous about actually the people.
It's a good question, and that's something that comes up a lot, is that a lot of my clients, even, they're good when they're talking to their friends, they're good talking to family members, talking to their partners. Yeah, that's all fine. I don't have a problem with speaking then. But it's now you're in a meeting with the executives of your company.
Yeah.
Right? Or it's a meeting with your boss, or the CEO's there. And that's usually when people find it challenging. Right? It's not all situations. Not like Ty as a 13-year-old boy sitting in class. It's like these are people that are pretty decent communicators a lot of times in everyday situations, but it's those higher pressure professional situations that typically they need more practice in. So,
and that prompts, you just keep talking, but that made me think of a question. Yep.
No, for sure. So the state of mind that you're in actually makes a much more important impact on your communication than people think, right? So for a lot of people, the speaking skills may be there, but what they actually need is to just get better at their state of mind before that. So overcoming those nerves. So there's different things you can do in terms of building up the confidence before those situations. It's just even like simple things like breathing exercises, really short breathing exercises you can do before a meeting. There are things that you can do in the moment with the breath, but then there's things you can do, let's say, before a meeting to kind of prime your brain. Even something like a quick visualization is proven to work really well, where you imagine the meeting that you're going to have going smoothly. You imagine yourself speaking better. Lots of different things that you can do to actually shift the state. Because imagine if you could speak just as easily to the CEO of your company or a really important client as you speak to your mom or a friend, right?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. That's a game changer skill right there.
Yep.
It is. And that's what, when you were saying it, it instantly, it hit me. Do you think that it's beneficial or you should change or whatever? Let's just say, for instance, that you do have that meeting and there's these executives. Okay. Do you need to change your communicate? Maybe you're a great communicator and you're not socially whatever. Do you need to all of a sudden now I'm going to speak as a, or do you just need to be the same person you normally are?
I think you do need to be different, right? Because keep in mind, the people that you're very comfortable with, they don't really have high communication expectations for you.
Yeah.
Right? They're not like, I'm busy, I need just the highlights, this is important, versus that is probably how your CEO is thinking. He's got this amount of time for a meeting. She's got X amount of time to speak with you, right? So I think you do actually need to speak a lot differently. You need to be a lot more clear, a lot more concise, to the point, no extra nonsense, no extra jargon. You need to be really crisp, much shorter and more clear and powerful than you would if you're just telling a story to a friend.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this, Ty. So you've studied this and you kind of know what you should do. Do you have sometimes when you're doing something, do you kind of say, oh, I should have done it this way? Right? Like, so, oh, I should have, I didn't do what I teach others to do. Do you ever have those situations?
Sometimes I do find myself getting a little bit long-winded with a story if I am just talking to like a friend or something like that. I find that because I'm not in the zone as much or as on, I'm just like telling the story, and then I'm thinking, do I even need to be telling this story to this person? Or is it just because I know this person will love me and accept me no matter what, that I'm just going to tell it anyways? So that would probably be the one that comes to mind the most. Sorry to anyone who's listened to me tell a long story that happens to love me.
That's great.
Well, you know what happens a lot of times. The reason I asked the question is, even what you were saying about breathing and and having your breath in the right position when you start a sentence and things like that. Even doing this, I'm sometimes starting, my lungs are completely out of breath, and the voice gets high, and it completely changes. And I'm like, Dad, Jim, I know better than that, But that's part of the progress. I'm sure with your students, there's going to be a learning curve. We can learn these things and intellectually understand, hey, this is the best way to handle this, and this is why But now actually applying that in the real world, the applied mathematics, right? Applying that in the real world sometimes is a little more difficult.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it's a habit that you just build up like anything else, right? So even having good body language, right? It's one of the simplest things that can be done, right? Once you know what to do, even just having good posture, right? Easy thing to do. If I'm kind of sitting here like this, talking to you guys right now, I'm kind of hunched forward, or I'm kind of like
trying to
this.
sit up straight right now. Yeah.
You know, this is like a totally different Ty versus me just sitting nice, strong, upright posture. But even something like that, it's not complicated.
Right.
But for a lot of people, you do actually have to practice just getting in the habit of sitting up more straight, having more strong, confident body language. And once you build that habit, then you don't really have to think about it anymore, which is the great thing, right? It's not like you have to constantly think about it for the rest of your life, just long enough to where that's your new normal.
That's right. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, Jenny. It made me think. So what we were talking about earlier, we're talking about Jenny's going to be the ballerina, right? The Russian ballerina, Jenny.
Duh.
Yeah. So if we think about how do we want to present ourselves, and we think about if I was playing the role of this super confident, super cool, super rich, super successful person, how would I present myself? You know, and if we can see ourselves as that person and then act it out, right? I mean, Ty, what do you think?
Yeah, there's a whole book on that called Alter Ego. I believe it's by Todd Herman. And it's really all about creating an alter ego for yourself that helps you accomplish whatever you want to achieve, right? So I think the example he gives that everyone knows is Beyonce has Sasha Fierce.
Right.
And then Kobe Bryant had the Black Mamba. Those were kind of like their alter egos that helped them perform better in those high pressure situations.
It's not them, it's this person.
Yeah, because you might think, well, okay, you know, Ty isn't really good at this. Or I don't know if Ty could do this, but maybe Tyrone, alter ego, strong, confident Tyrone could.
Yeah.
Right. And so if that helps, it's another tool that you could definitely experiment with. Some
That's
people
a good
like
idea, though. Honestly, I mean, I know it's not like anything, but that's smart because when you said it immediately, it resonated because I have a friend who is just as meek and sweet and all of a sudden she's like, I said, man, she said I had to say this to so and so, and I was like, wow, and she said, well, it wasn't me, it was, I don't know who she, you know what I mean? She's like, I had to, it's like my multiple person, but it's like sometimes you have to go into that mode of okay, now this is what I'm going to be right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool, yeah.
Yeah, so I remember when sometimes to kind of see how we see ourselves, it takes me back. So I was in Toastmasters, Ty, and I'm sure you're familiar with that. And somebody there in the club, longtime speaker. I was new to the club. He was known to just win all the contests and that sort of thing. And he stood up, said, "I'm going to be in the contest or whatever this year." And I challenged Daniel Allison to step up and do this too. And I thought to myself, there's no way I can beat this guy. There's no way. And then I said, well, if I was going to beat him, what would that look like? What would the speech, how would I present myself? What would I have to do? And I started visualizing that. And then I tried to act it out, because once we have a problem with kind of seeing ourselves doing it until we really start thinking it through and create this alter ego, So I said, no, I'm not going to be Daniel. I said, I'm going to be an average dude. I'm just kidding, but you get the idea. You get the idea.
But you're also going to be the above average dude.
yeah. But it, and then it played out. And of course it felt weird because I knew, hey, you can't speak like anything like you've been doing. You're going to have to level up. You're going to have to move about and make eye contact with the audience and look and I started visualizing that. And then I said, okay, well, then that's what I'm going to have to do. And so I think that sometimes, like Ty said earlier, visualization can go a long way. You see yourself doing and performing in a way that doesn't seem like you. Oh, no, I'm the guy that's hunched over. And go ahead, Jenny.
See, this is my nonverbal communication. Do you like that, Ty?
That's perfect.
I mean,
everyone should have one of those. I like how you made it a star too. That's so fitting.
It's like exactly. because but you know what? What you're saying, Daniel, and this made me, I was wondering, Ty, I mean, you might be like, that is something stupid to do. But sometimes when I'm in that situation, say, for instance, I'm thinking back to my daughter and I, when she was younger, we wrote a book. They had us presenting it at these different, and that I can talk to anybody usually, but standing in front of a group that's watching me. And I thought, and the only way that I was able to do it is I literally thought, what is the worst thing that's going to happen right now? What's the worst thing? Are they going to, are they going to kill me? Are they going to start screaming and throw me out? No, you know what I mean? It's like, they're here to hear what I have to say. Just be yourself. I mean, does that help somewhat? To have that kind of mindset? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? I saw
For
it.
sure. Yeah, no, it's a great perspective that can definitely help, right? Because if you're like, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen to you there? It's like, well, I don't know. Maybe they just won't listen. Maybe they'll boo after I finish. But then, will I even remember this in a couple years or a couple months? Does it really matter? Something that usually helps me and a lot of my clients too is a similar perspective where you just view it more as practice than a performance. So this is for anything.
That's true.
Right. So a lot of times you're showing up to that situation, Jenny, because you're like, this is a performance. I want everyone to like what I have to say. I want a good response. I want to do my absolute best.
I want them smiling. I want them laughing. I don't want Biller.
You want a great response. Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you're showing up and just thinking it as, okay, I'm just going to practice my speaking here. Whatever happens, it's just about getting these practice reps in.
Yeah.
Because this is just practice for something that's much greater.
That's right.
That's coming down the road.
Yeah.
And it sounds so simple, but it actually takes so much pressure off.
It surely does. You're absolutely right, because that's something Daniel had even said to me when we started doing this. Before we'd go on, I'd be like, oh man, I don't know. And you know what? It's like, hey, each time it was a practice. Hey, I could have done this. I see where I may not should have done that, but don't look at it as a negative. It was a practice to getting better.
100%. And even if you did make a small mistake, again, is anyone really going to remember or care? Realizing too how much people just think about themselves also is helpful, right? People, are they even listening that close? Do they even really care if you make a mistake? I once said on a podcast, career sex instead of career success. I was like, so the best thing to do for career sex, success.
And the podcast, it had a million hits, views.
Yeah, exactly. And afterwards, I was like, that's such a silly thing to say. I mean, it's funny, but also I do this for a living. I shouldn't be saying sex instead of success. That's not an appropriate mistake for me to make.
Did you beat yourself up?
Not really, because I was like, does anyone really care? Is somebody going to laugh and say, ha, and then move on with their lives?
Yeah.
Were they even listening close enough to tell? Does it really matter? I didn't insult anyone. I didn't hurt anyone.
Are they going to wake up and say, that time, I can't believe he said sex.
Yeah. And so I was like, well, I'm just
sex.
It's just practice so that I don't say sex next time.
Yeah,
that's right.
We're going to see how many times we can get you to say it here, and that's what we're going to talk about each time.
Yeah, we're going to chop this up and just say sex. I don't know. We won't do that. But I do have a question.
What's on your mind, Michael?
That's it.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
It's like,
great comment. Great comment.
So I want to talk about something that I personally kind of struggle with. So sometimes when we're talking to someone and we see their facial expression, we take, I'm someone that really notices things, right? And other people. And when I see a micro expression and now this says a lot about me as a person, actually, but I will see something and I will take it as a rejection of what I'm saying, a not acceptance of what I'm saying.
Me too.
And I know intellectually that that's not what's happening, that I'm being sensitive to anything that I perceive as rejection. Have you had any clients that have had that similar, or am I just a weirdo?
Can you fix him right now, Tom?
Yeah, I'll fix you immediately. So stop watching others.
Don't observe anything.
Yeah. Never look at another person ever again on screen.
And
you'll never have that problem.
Then you'll feel like you're great.
Yeah.
Yeah. but it's especially on virtual calls, you truly have no idea what somebody's actually doing on their screen. You don't know, right? So even for now, I don't know if you guys look like you're paying attention to me, but for all I know, you could be reading a nasty email somebody just sent to you.
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. For sure. And so I think if they're like this, then you definitely know that it's not about you, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You definitely know that they're not responding to you when they're like that.
Definitely know they don't care what you say.
Yeah. But especially on video calls, you actually have no idea. So I always say it's
right.
better either not to look, but if you need to look, do your best not to actually interpret anything as a response to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it's either not a response to what you're saying, or a lot of people just don't think about or control their facial expressions.
Yes.
Truly, like there's no evidence whatsoever that it has anything to do with what you're saying.
Yeah.
I also tell people to look at the camera a lot. So me right now, look at the camera versus looking down.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that. That's why I had to move you up a little bit. But
for sure. So if you're looking at the camera when you're speaking too, you can't really see everyone either, which is a good thing. It's better to look at the camera and have people think you're making eye contact with them. It's the closest way to simulate in-person eye contact, looking at the camera. So it's better to do that than looking down, which looks like you're now not looking at them. Yeah. And now you're focusing on them instead of what you're saying.
That's
right. That was, you know what I did, like with a Zoom meeting back in the day when we did a lot more Zoom, I would literally always just have that gallery off to the side. Don't have them all on the screen, because then I'm looking at what are they doing and what are they doing. And that way, if it's just the speaker, we're looking at each other. Or if I'm talking, I don't know if they're looking at me or not, you know.
So let's do this. Go ahead if you want to respond to that, and then I've got something.
Yeah, I just want to add something too. If you're using Zoom or Microsoft Teams, which are two of the biggest ones that people use in the professional world anyways, you can actually minimize the window, and so it'll be only the person speaking.
Oh, I know. That's what I do.
Just drag it up to the top. For anyone that doesn't do that, drag it up to the top near the camera so that you can see both the person and be looking very close to the camera at the same time. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. You can see them and have it look like you are making eye contact.
That's a great tip. And actually what I needed to do, just as we're talking here right now, I had you on the lower part of the screen. I got terrible eyes. That happens when you get a little older. But I moved him up, and because I wanted to do just exactly what you're saying. I wanted to be able to not be looking down, and for it to, because that makes a big difference on these virtual calls.
It does. And, you know, it's like, and Daniel, I know you, but it's like, I check over here so I can see, you know, comments.
Right.
You know, and then I'm one of these people. It's like, okay, Ty's talking. I'm looking at Ty. Daniel starts talking. I look at, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm looking at myself. No,
so I do want to continue to kind of talk because for me, that's my biggest challenge. So when you know, I'm giving a speech, and if the group of folks is looking at me, I used to try to interpret what they were thinking. And what I finally realized, if they're looking at you, it's all good, right? I mean, they're paying attention. So don't try to interpret the thoughts, but just keep going.
I hate that.
Eye contact, communicate. If your mate gives you a look, eye contact, communicated. Yeah, that look of like, shut up, don't say anything else. Or maybe it's a good positive look, like we talked about earlier.
No.
So what I want to do is talk about some specific situations that we may find ourselves in, and maybe you've had folks or clients that have this coming up. The first one, a job interview. So you're going to get a job. You're going in. You've got all this competition. How do we separate ourselves? How do we communicate in a job interview, Ty?
First of all, remember that the job interview is just practice. Okay, very first thing. Remember, we're not done with that. It's going to make it a lot easier for you. You're going to show up a lot better, because if you're not actually attached to the outcome of a scenario, you naturally just perform way better.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah,
that's going to be the first thing.
Yeah, that's smart.
And then there's various.
Wait a minute, but I want this job real bad, Ty. I've got to have this job. I've got to be attached to this. What do you say?
Well, I would ask if this is the only job like this that will ever exist ever again.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it.
Like, well, I guess not. Like, is this the perfect job and it's disappearing and gone forever
Yeah.
after this? Out of the
Yeah.
entire world, it's only this?
Yeah, you would, Eric Ryan. We know you.
But that's true though. Yeah, because we do. I mean, when you
We
feel
think
like,
it's the only job in the world.
yeah, you think, or anything for that matter, if you're pitching something or you're this, and it's like, well, that was it. That was my big shot. I'm done.
Yeah.
Just practice for the next time.
What's next, Ty, on a job interview?
Yeah, definitely. Well, so a lot of times people spend actually a lot more time focusing on their answers and the words that they're going to say more than the voice that they're speaking with and the body language that they're showing up with.
Yes.
Okay, so even just making sure that you have the first like 5 seconds right when you show up to, whether it's walking in the office if you're in person or showing up to the video call, remember how important the first impression is. Right. So, I mean, I have team members, I've interviewed many different people. A lot of times you kind of know right away. Right. And you especially know right away if they're not the right person. Right. You can kind of just sense like, there's something off about them, or no, I'm just not a fan. I don't think this will work. Right.
Yeah.
So spend a lot of focus on just really mastering those first like 5 seconds. So make sure that if it's in person, right, you're making eye contact right away, you're shaking a hand, strong, confident body language, right? So good posture, you're upright, there's no hands in pockets, there's no crossed arms at any point throughout the conversation. You just want to be nice and upright, open, right?
Yeah.
This is the person. You're sending so many subconscious signals to the other person just by making eye contact, smiling, open body language, sitting upright. That is such an underrated part of making a good first impression, and especially in a job interview. If you don't want to be disqualified right off the bat, make sure that you're nailing those first few seconds. Okay.
I love that.
Super underrated.
Instead of listening to what they say, and they can see that you have that interest in what they're saying, instead of thinking about, okay, what am I going to say next to that, to the interviewee or whatever. I mean, we got a question for you.
Yeah, absolutely. How to speak to a diverse audience.
Do you keep the pitch broad? Good question, Corey.
Good question.
I like it.
Well, so if we're talking, to, if this is a job interview type of situation, let's say where there's multiple people, definitely, I would generally keep it broad. But if you're talking to a group, you usually know who's gonna be there, right? So if you're talking to a panel of people interviewing you, you know the company, right? You've done some research, you know the types of things that they would probably want to hear. If you're speaking to an audience, you probably know the type of event that you're speaking at.
That's what I was gonna say.
You probably know the type of group. If you're in a meeting at work, you're not showing up to a random room not knowing who's there. So be as specific as you can for that particular group, right?
Yeah.
And then if, let's say, there's one type of person here and another type of person, you could give a short example that would apply more to one, a short example that might apply more to the other, right? So there's things that you can do.
Yeah.
And this is where the preparation is really key, right? You should know and have an idea of who you're going to speak with.
There. It's like,
and I would say, if there's only one or two, I wouldn't want to exclude 80% of the audience. I would try to get as much commonality as I could find within that group.
I think what you just said, Ty, was really good too, because knowing who's there, and just say, for instance, like if you're speaking to a group and it's school administration or something, and then you've got, and I'm thinking of this because of the book we wrote, but then you got like guidance counselors, and then you've got to, otherwise sometimes they might be sitting there going, wait a minute, how does this even apply to me? You know what I mean? Or it's like, you want to make it to where they're like, okay, yes, that's great for this, that's great. So you got to know who's in your audience.
Definitely. The only exception would be if you know that there's one or two decision makers and you're trying to get a deal through. It's like, these are the two people that will make this decision. Yes, definitely tailor to them. Also make more eye contact with them, make them feel more involved. You're not ignoring the other people. Right?
Yeah.
But you're putting a little bit more attention and focus on them strategically, because that will definitely help you get the results you want.
As
And
we
that
don't
made me think, and I would amen this, but in a conference room type situation, if you are to do some decision makers, but make sure you look at all of the people at the table, right? Like if it's a multi-people interview, you don't want to get locked in on that one person, right?
For sure. Sharing the love, sharing the connection. Again, if you are making a little bit more eye contact with just the decision makers, it's not, again, you're not looking at the other people.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit more, right? Because you want them to feel a little bit more connected and a little bit more important strategically to kind of feed the ego just a little bit.
Right. I love it.
Whilst still giving, attention to each person. A lot of people ask, how do I split eye contact with a group? And an easy way is to just, say a sentence to one person, look at the next person, say your next sentence, and then just go sentence by sentence. It's kind of a natural way of doing it, instead of just dumping a bunch of words on one person, then kind of scanning the room, talking about the rest. That's the most natural way for a lot of people to do it.
Well, I'm thinking about. Go ahead, Jenny.
I said that would be something I think you'd have to train yourself to be able to do that, because I think sometimes we get nervous or whatever, and we start talking, and then we see one person that kind of smiled, and we're like, okay, we're smiling.
Yeah. Right. You want to lock in where it's comfortable.
Where it feels good.
You don't want to look at the person that's like, huh?
See, Ty's smiling. I'm like, okay, see, he's smiling. I'm not looking at you, Daniel.
Yeah. Dude, what's wrong with you? No.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about, as you said, and I think you're just so right on it, and I think we need to kind of hammer it home. The vibe when you walk in that room, the vibe that they get, your energy is going to do so much more than anything you say. Right? I mean, so just getting in that right mindset, whatever that takes. I've seen the power poses, the visualization, whatever it is that you can walk in and they get that feeling of energy coming from you. Right, Ty?
For sure. And what a lot of people confuse about that is that they have to be feeling in the perfect mood and feeling just tremendous for that situation.
That's what I was about to ask you. That's awesome.
Yeah. But where a lot of the energy or that vibe comes from actually is signals sent from your body language. Right? So even if I'm feeling amazing, if I rolled up to the call and I'm talking to you guys like this.
Yeah.
The whole time, even if I feel incredible and I feel like I have great energy. Right? How do you guys feel?
Yeah. He doesn't want to be here.
I want to be
he
here.
He doesn't want to be here. Right?
Yeah.
So even though my energy, I feel amazing.
Yes.
I'm focused and excited and I'm happy to be here, but I'm sending signals that are contrary to that. Right? So even if you're feeling nervous, just again, simply doing the simple things like right shoulders down and back, arms nicely at sides, no arms crossed, no arms in pockets, no arms behind the back, just arms at your sides, nice and comfortable, open body language, upright, head up, making eye contact, maybe just maybe a slight smirk or a smile. Right.
Yes.
So even if you're about to explode with nerves and anxiety inside, if you show up sending all those subconscious signals through your body language, right, and your facial expression, you're mindful of, right? So you do have to be aware of that, especially when you're walking into a job interview or entering a Zoom call, meeting, whatever it might be. If you have the RBF, right, the resting bitch face, as they call it.
I was going to bring up the RBF.
I was thinking that because it's like, you're like, this person's always in a bad mood. And they're like, no, I'm happy. I'm ecstatic today.
For sure. So especially being aware of that so that you're not making people unsure of how you're feeling. Just a little smirk is fine. Just I like to just kind of lift the sides of my mouth, just the corners, just a little bit, right? Not so I'm looking like the Joker all the time and have this wild grin. But I'm totally guilty of looking stern or uninterested just with my natural face too. So that's something I think about when I'm in a situation around other people. And so if you do all those things, your energy is going to feel good to the other person, even if maybe you're exploding inside.
and Jenny, I will get to that. I'm sorry. But one thing that I had in mind is when we, if we're listening, let's say the person that's interviewing us is talking, I want to give them they might not give it to you, and we can't expect them to, but I want to let them know I am paying attention.
Yes.
I like what you're saying. I give them that kind of, that consistency. I don't want them to feel what we're talking about us feeling, right? I mean, I want them to feel like I'm interested, I'm excited about what they're saying. And I think a lot, so you don't want the RBF when the job interviewer is talking to you.
Right. Yeah. Can I ask, am I allowed to ask a question?
I'm sorry, I had to get that out, Jenny.
This is what we call nonverbal communication.
Yeah. That's
very
beautiful.
effective, though. It means I have a question. And now it's gone. No, I know what thing. I might have like energy and I, I can't help but gesture. That's just, it looks like I'm doing
like karate or kung fu right now.
But what I'm saying is that it's like if you're nervous, you're going to talk to a group, whatever. I tend to talk faster. And how do you slow that down? Also, to where it doesn't seem like you're slowing it down, all of a sudden, you don't want to be like, hey, I'm just wondering, I tend to like.
How do we slow down, Ty?
Yeah, great question. It's a very, very common thing that happens. I have yet to encounter a person that talks too slow when they're nervous. Everybody speeds up, right? So that's why nobody should be worried about speaking too slow. If you're talking in a group or talking like in a meeting or anything like that, for example, if you practice talking slower than you think, chances are it's going to be a pretty probably average pace, even though you think it's too slow. I know. I see average on the screen. It's being planted in my brain here. And so it's influencing my communication.
Yeah, that is.
But to slow down, you definitely, if you're practicing, let's say you're about to give your talk with your daughter, right? Practicing slower than you think you need to be. And if you have a opportunity where you have planned something to say, actually mark in pause every so often, natural pauses or natural breath. Even let's say you're presenting, let's say it's a virtual meeting, you're presenting some slides. Having like a sticky note beside your computer that says slow down. Like you need to be reminded and you need to practice. So it sounds simple, but it's not easy. Right? So another thing that helps you slow down will actually be making sure that you're breathing while you're speaking. Yeah. So that's a big one too, because if you hold your breath and then you're talking fast, you usually have a higher pitch and just sounds like you're a little bit nervous. You usually talk faster. Versus if you're making sure that you're breathing as you're speaking, it's actually harder to get to talking too fast, because when you talk too fast, you can't really breathe deeply and talk fast at the same time, right?
No. That's awesome. And I've noticed, when I start speaking fast, we start losing people's interest, don't we? I mean, it's one of those things where we think that we've got good information, but the truth is a breath right there. Now what is he going to say instead of, and I'm guilty of that. I'm still trying to slow down, but breathing is a great tip.
It's an automatic slowdown. You got to take, you can't really be talking while you're taking a breath.
That's right. Is there a number to Corey's question?
I like that. I mean, or do you monitor it? I mean, is that something that you could, let's just say we're going to do a presentation and video myself, and then I could look and say, you know what? I mean, is there some way of monitoring? Hey, you know what? That's just too fast.
Yeah. So average words per minute is about I believe it's about 140, somewhere around there. Fast, I believe they have is about 170 words per minute, and then slow is about 110.
A number. That is amazing.
Oh yeah.
So there's not an app that I'm aware of that monitors that, but I'm sure that it's out there. Now, is that really the most effective way of practicing? Probably not. Recording yourself and then listening back is going to be a lot easier, right? Instead of like counting out the words, or okay, I got my word doc, I've got this many words, I'm going to record myself, see the time, right? It would be better to just record yourself speaking and then incorporate pauses, intentionally be slow. Again, when you're practicing, try to be slower than you think you need to be.
Because you're going to end faster.
Totally. You're always going to end up speaking faster than that in the actual moment.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing better than recording yourself practicing and then listening to it yourself, getting someone else to listen to it. Normally, you'll find when you record yourself speaking, you're going to think, okay, yeah, there's not enough pauses in here. I'm saying a bunch of stuff at once. It's not the easiest to follow.
Right.
So pausing consistently, breathing consistently, slowing down. If you practice that way,
Yeah.
then it's going to be a lot easier once the moment actually comes. And you're still going to speak a lot faster than you practiced.
Yeah.
That's just the way that it is. So doing those things in preparation and then in the moment, just making sure that you're breathing, that'll go a long way.
Because I think that partially for me, speaking fast, maybe subconsciously is let me get through this so that I'm done, and also I start thinking there are people like, get on with it, but those pauses to me, I think are good because Daniel and I, we had a great opportunity he hosted a communications workshop and we had Michael Cogdell, who is, an Emmy winning, he was an anchorman, but anyway, he does great and his storytelling is amazing. And we talked about those pauses. I don't know if they were intentional or what, but you're just like, and it's like you hung on that. It makes you hang on the words, but I think people miss it if I'm like, and they're like, what did she just say?
Yeah.
It's interesting too, because people think that they don't want to be boring if they talk too slow.
Yes.
But people will actually zone out if you talk too fast and don't pause.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like, here's a bunch of words, here's a bunch of more words. I'm just tossing a bunch of stuff out there. And that's actually hard. Like if you listen to an audiobook,
Mm-hmm.
if you listen to a professional speaker,
I was thinking that
if you watch TV or watch a movie, any of those situations, is somebody talking really, really fast with no pauses? Never. It's tough to listen to. It's hard for us to actually absorb what a person is saying in any setting if somebody's talking too fast or if there's no breaks.
Yeah,
right?
You got to let those snowflakes settle in the globe. You shake it up, let it land.
You can use that, Ty. I mean, you can use what he just said, that analogy.
I'm gonna steal that. I'm gonna steal the analogy.
Let me know if you use it, okay?
That's gonna be tomorrow's LinkedIn post. I need to find a snow globe. Yeah, I want an actual picture. Shaking it. Yeah.
And this is your words, and let it just flow. Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was pretty decent.
That's awesome.
So, what do you think? I wanted to give you just a few minutes here to respond to maybe some of the questions you get a lot, any tips, and also how you work with folks, Ty.
Yeah, how can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm mostly active on LinkedIn and Instagram. Those are my two big ones.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I was on TikTok for about 8 months, and then I actually got banned from TikTok.
Wow.
And for anyone that's seen my content, it's very wholesome communication content.
Yeah.
How did you get banned? Oh, you said sex.
Was it career sex? Is that what did it? Was it the resting bitch face video? Is that what did it?
Yes.
I don't actually know, but it happened when I changed a link in my bio to a free video call training that I have. So I changed the link in my bio. It was a free training on how to be likable before. Then I changed it to my newest free training, which is 5 video call secrets that every professional needs to know.
Ty has it nailed. Yep.
So for some reason, TikTok and whoever runs TikTok does not want people to be better on video calls because permanently banned. They won't let me back on. I could make a new account. I'm probably going to. I'm just a little sour about it because my stuff's so wholesome. It's wholesome. There's nothing offensive about it. There's nothing bad about it.
Like, what?
I know. And some of the stuff that's on there.
I'm like,
and they're banning me. So no TikTok. Probably I'll go back on. I'm still recovering. I'm still a little bit mad at TikTok.
TikTok hangover.
But
like
LinkedIn and Instagram. LinkedIn and Instagram are the big ones. And I coach professionals. I do a lot of one-on-one coaching for professionals that want to advance their careers, become better leaders, get promotions faster, that type of thing. And then also do group trainings for organizations as well. So, yeah.
You do those on site?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
You do
no. Go ahead.
Yeah, Daniel. Sorry.
You do those on site, the workshops with folks. You do those on site virtually, or how does that work?
Well, both. So I'm in Toronto. Most of it is virtual, right? In today's
That's
world,
right.
like
Yeah, you're in
you
Canada.
can work with anyone from anywhere in the world at
Mhm.
this point, which is truly a blessing. It's amazing. You know, the Europe, States, Canada, like lots of clients all
The
spread
South.
out. So
South.
yeah, exactly. Everywhere. So
Yeah.
yeah, message on LinkedIn, message on Instagram. I'm pretty active on there. If you're
Uh-huh.
interested in anything or just any other type of questions, I spend a
Is
little
it your
time each day
handle name?
responding to DMs.
Do
What's
they
that?
just put up under your name for Instagram? Is it that your handle also?
Yep, it's just my name, Ty Hoesgen, which is actually the right way, but you were close enough at the beginning, so I let it slide.
Hoesgen.
I literally told him, I said, okay, Daniel, we're now, Ty, we're from the South, okay? So we grew up saying like hose pipe, okay, which is stupid. But anyway, I said, Daniel, this is how you say his name, hose, as in hose pipe, and gen, as in like guinea pig. That's what I
Oh, well,
said.
you were right. To be fair, I actually take responsibility, though. Daniel messaged me and asked for the pronunciation, but I didn't get back to him in
Oh,
Yeah.
time. So it's actually my fault entirely. So
Yeah,
I'll
I'm
take
so
full blame for
upset about
that.
it too, Ty. I mean, I
I'll
have
take
been.
full blame.
we're sorry.
Well,
Yeah.
this has been a lot of fun. I had my own communication journey. I know how impactful communication can be. You've obviously know your stuff.
You do.
I really think that folks should reach out. And I guess if you have a big presentation coming up, if you've got a big date coming up, if you've got a job interview coming up, I think you could probably get somebody on a virtual call and have them ready to roll.
Yeah.
Absolutely happy to help with whatever you need.
Yeah.
I so enjoyed it. Thank you so much for coming on with us. We had a ball.
That was a ton of fun. You guys are both great communicators. You asked a lot of really interesting questions for sure. And speaking of energy, both of you bring the energy. It's positive, it's fun, it's light. This was edutaining, educational, and entertaining.
I've got it from edutain because it's going up as a post.
Yeah.
The new word.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thanks for
See you
having me.
next time, everybody.